Are you struggling with studying some of the challenging ISSA CPT exam questions? Well, look no further because we're going to give you the inside scoop on how to answer the hardest questions on the ISSA exam. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another PTPioneer video, your #1 guide for a career in fitness. Before we get started, head on over to PTPioneer.com and download your free ISSA exam cheat sheet. Link is also in the description. I've also linked it right up here above my shoulder, so make sure to get your copy today. Then head on over to traineracademy.org and download their premium ISSA study materials. These will reduce your study time in half, and they offer an exam pass guarantee. Now, one of the easiest questions you can answer today, and I'll tell you it's not going to be on the ISSA exam, is have you crushed that like button yet? I'm telling you, this is going to be one of the easiest questions you'll get right today. And for a quick bonus, why not hit that subscribe button as well as hitting that little notification bell so you do not miss any of our ISSA videos in the future. The ISSA CPT is a comprehensive fitness certification that prepares you for the rigors of being a personal trainer. The ISSA exam includes topics from a variety of scientific and practical topics relevant to personal training, and this test consists of 200 multiple choice questions. Before taking the ISSA certification final exam, you must take the ISSA quizzes that are given to you when you sign up for the ISSA CPT. Also, check out a link in the description for a discount on signing up for the ISSA CPT. You must answer at least 150 questions correct to receive the minimum passing score of 75%. You must also have a valid CPR and AED certification in order to take this exam. The ISSA exam can be taken online and without a time limit, as well as having an open book, so you have a bit more wiggle room when it comes to memorizing every little detail. Before we begin, I wanted to mention again downloading the Trainer Academy ISSA cheat sheet. This cheat sheet contains the most important information and topics needed to pass the ISSA exam. With that being said, let's break down the 10 hardest questions you'll find on the ISSA exam. Question number 1. Which principle states that our bodies will physiologically adapt according to whether we are training aerobically or anaerobically? A, the said principle. B, the principle of individual differences. C, the fit principle. Or D, the specificity principle. When it comes to planning a custom program for one of your clients, one of the key considerations for your program is the metabolic specificity of your training, which simply means that the intensity of the exercise should meet the client's anaerobic or aerobic fitness need. The said principle, which stands for the specific adaptations to imposed demands, clearly summarizes this consideration. If your client is looking for aerobic adaptations, such as preparing for an endurance event, he or she must train at an intensity that primarily uses the aerobic energy system. On the other hand, a client whose goals rely on the anaerobic energy systems, for example, a sprinter or a powerlifter, must train at intensities that rely on the anaerobic energy system. The fit principle is also important to training, but refers to the variables of training frequency, intensity, time, and type of exercise. While related to the said principle, the fit principle is not specifically about metabolic specificity of exercise. The principle of individual differences states that the rate and magnitude of our adaptations is limited to our genetics. The specificity principle is like the said principle, as it states that clients should move from general training to specialized training as intended for their specific goal, but has more to do with movement patterns and sport specificity, as opposed to the metabolic specificity of the said principle. In this case, the answer does indeed come out to the said principle. You must be familiar with all 7 of the granddaddy laws discussed in the ISSA curriculum, which include the 4 we just discussed. You may be asked about any one of them. Question 2. Dumbbells are an example of which type of training equipment? A, constant resistance device. B, variable resistance device. C, accommodating resistance device. Or D, static resistance device. The answer to this question is again A, a constant resistance device. Since a dumbbell's resistance level does not change regardless of the range of motion or movement speed, it is a constant resistance device. Variable resistance devices use an elliptical cam or other technology that vary the amount of weight lifted to match the strength curve for a particular exercise. Nautilus machines are an example of a variable resistance device. Accommodating resistance devices have a fixed movement speed and allow maximal force exertion through a constant speed throughout the entire range of motion. Machines that allow accommodating resistance typically have a flywheel in conjunction with air or fluid to keep a fixed movement speed. Static resistance devices are designed to train isometric contractions. While this type of training does not transfer well to functional activities, it can be used to overcome sticking points in other lifts. An example of a static resistance setup would be setting up pins at the top of an overhead press to block the bar path. The athlete would perform the movement normally until the bar hits the pins, then contract maximally for roughly 5 seconds against the fixed pins of the bar. You must be able to elaborate on all types of resistance training equipment to ensure you can correctly answer questions on this topic. Question 3. Improper biomechanical movement between two vertebrae is known as A. Subluxation, B. Vertebral stiffness, C. Spinal stenosis, or D. Spine freeze. Again, we get the answer A. Subluxation. Sports medicine is another key topic in the ISSA curriculum and covers a wide range of possible issues and injuries your client may encounter. Subluxations are improper biomechanical movements between two vertebrae that can irritate the spinal nerve, causing back and neck pain, muscle spasms, and potential for further injury. Vertebral stiffness can occur after long periods of sitting and can cause issues if a client bends improperly after these extended periods of time sitting. Spinal stenosis is an issue caused by the narrowing of spaces within the spine. While it is an issue your clients may experience, it is not covered in the ISSA curriculum. And finally, spinal freeze is not a scientific term covered anywhere in the ISSA. There are many spine issues covered in the ISSA curriculum, and these issues are covered in Unit 30, Sports Medicine in the Trenches. Question 4. What strength program guidelines are suggested for senior clients? A. High intensity with low repetitions. B. Low to moderate intensity with high repetitions. C. Low to moderate intensity with low repetitions. Or D. Low intensity with high repetitions. Older adults are a huge segment of the population of potential fitness clients, and learning how to effectively manage and serve their needs opens up a lot of doors for a new personal trainer. When it comes to training older clients, the ISSA recommends low to moderate intensity with high repetitions. Starting with machines and gradually progressing to free weights is one of the recommendations the ISSA makes about programming for an older client. Be aware that many older clients have other health issues, such as hypertension or arthritis, that may warrant additional concern when designing and implementing programs for this type of client. Question 5. The semimembranosus and the semitendinosus attach on which side of the knee? A. Lateral, B. Medial, C. Anterior, or D. Posterior. The semimembranosus and the semitendinosus are two of the muscles in the hamstring group that run down the back of the thigh and attach on the medial side of the tibia, with the semimembranosus attaching on the posteromedial surface of the medial tibial condyle and the semitendinosus attaching to the upper anterior medial surface of the tibia. You should know the differences between lateral, medial, posterior, and anterior locations on the body, but if you're unsure, here are a few definitions. Lateral is closer to the outside of the body relative to the anatomic reference point. Medial is closer to the middle of the body relative to an anatomic reference point. Anterior is closer to the front of the body relative to an anatomic reference point, and posterior is closer to the back of the body relative to an anatomic reference point. Looking back to the answer for this question, the answer is B, medial. Question number 6. What does the term angle of pull refer to? Is it A, the act of maintaining your body's balance. B, the angle in which the muscle pulls relative to the long axis of the bone on which it pulls. C, the sequential combination of movement outlining a geometric cone. Or D, the angle of a variable resistance machine's line of action. The answer comes out to be B, the angle at which a muscle pulls relative to the long axis of the bone on which it pulls. The angle of pull is the angle at which a muscle pulls relative to the long axis of the bone on which it is pulling. This angle changes throughout the range of motion, which affects the relative amount of weight the muscle can lift. When it comes to the biomechanics of resistance training, one of the big concepts is the idea of changing mechanical advantage throughout the range of motion in a movement. Mechanical advantage refers to the relative amount of force needed to move resistance when it is at the opposite side of the lever. Depending on the joint angle, greater or lesser amounts of force are needed to move a fixed resistance at a given speed. For example, in a bicep curl exercise, when the angle of pull is at 90 degrees, there is a much greater mechanical advantage than when the arm is fully extended, which has roughly a 10-degree angle of pull. You can actually feel this effect while performing the bicep curl. You've probably noticed that it is far easier to lift the dumbbell or the barbell when your arms are at 90 degrees than when they are fully extended. This is the direct result of the changing angle of pull and the associated change in the mechanical advantage. Question number 7. For aerobic training, the ISSA recommends that individuals train at what percentage of the maximum heart rate? Is it A, 80% to 100%, B, 50% to 70%, C, 55% to 85%, or D, 40% to 70%. Aerobic training is moderate physical exercise that places demands on the oxygen-based pathways that replenish ATP. Over time, aerobic training improves the efficiency of these systems, allowing training at higher absolute intensities for longer periods of time. The ISSA recommends performing aerobic exercise at intensities that drive your heart rate from 55 to 85% of your age-predicted maximal heart rate, which you can calculate by subtracting your age from 220. Newer exercisers should be at the lower end of this range, while more experienced aerobic exercisers can push up to the upper limits. However, exercising above this range will place extra reliance on the anaerobic system, and this will not allow your client to sustain this exercise for long periods of time. And exercising below this range will not provide sufficient stimulus to drive the beneficial adaptations of the aerobic system. Question number 8. The molecule used for storage and transfer of energy in the body is known as A, micronutrients, B, carbohydrates, C, carbon dioxide, or D, adenosine triphosphate. While the source of energy for biological activity comes from carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, all of these substrates are ultimately converted to adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. While ATP is the molecule responsible for storage and transfer of energy in the body, it also plays a foundational role in the process of a muscle contraction. The different energy systems in the body utilize a different process to convert consumed food to energy. However, all processes ultimately result in the recreation of ATP, as ATP is expended during muscle contraction. When it comes to bioenergetics, the key fact to memorize is that the ATP molecule is primarily used for storage and the transfer of energy within the body. Question 9. Which type of contraction requires the muscles to activate but have no movement or change in muscle length? Is it A, concentric, B, isometric, C, eccentric, or D, isotonic? There are 3 main types of muscle actions used in resistance training: eccentric, concentric, and isometric. The eccentric muscle action occurs when the muscle contracts and lengthens. This is seen as the controlled lowering of the weight during a repetition. A concentric muscle action occurs when the muscle contracts and shortens. This can be seen during the raising phase of a standard weight training movement. Isometric muscle actions are muscle contractions that occur when the muscle contracts but it does not change its length. Typical isometric muscle actions occur during a static hold or a plank. Additional common isometric muscle actions occur when stabilizer muscles contract while the prime movers perform concentric muscle actions that actually causes the weight to move. The muscles of the core and the torso contract to stabilize. A barbell during a back squat is a common example of isometric actions that occur during an exercise involving movement. Question number 10. If you can perform a maximum of 8 repetitions using a certain weight, then that weight is approximately what percentage of your 1 repetition max? Is it A, 55%, B, 75%, C, 80%, or D, 100%? Percentages of 1 repetition maxes are an ideal way to assign resistance levels when performing resistance training. While testing a 1 repetition max may be appropriate for intermediate or experienced lifters, the intensity of performing a 1 rep max for novice lifters may be a bit too challenging. Using a predicted 1 repetition max based on the repetition maximum is a good way to estimate a client's 1 rep max. To do this, you will use a weight that allows the client to perform the movement comfortably and safely. From there, you will have the client perform as many repetitions as they can until they reach muscle failure and cannot complete another repetition safely. The weight should be heavy enough to complete up to 8 to 12 repetitions. The estimated 1 repetition max calculations are as follows. 1 rep max equals 100%. 2 rep max equals 95%. 3 rep max equals 92.5%. 4 rep max equals 90%. A 5 rep max equals 87.5%. A 6 rep max equals 85%, a 7 rep max equals 82.5%, an 8 rep max equals 80%, a 9 rep max equals 77.5%, and a 10 rep max equals 75%. As such, a weight that allows a client to perform 8 repetitions before failure should be approximately 80% of their 1 repetition max, giving us the answer of C. The above questions represent the scope of the material covered in the ISSA curriculum, as well as the typical wording of certain questions. Be aware that these are not the exact questions that you will come across during your ISSA exam, but cover the same material. As such, memorizing the questions presented is not the goal of this video. Nevertheless, if you can comfortably answer these questions and understand the underlying concepts, you are more than prepared to pass your ISSA exam. If you want more practice questions to prepare for your ISSA exam, make sure to check out our free Trainer Academy ISSA quiz in the link in the description. If you guys found this video useful, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you're not missing out on any of our ISSA videos coming out in the future. Be sure to also head over to PTPioneer and download the free ISSA cheat sheet, and then head over to Trainer Academy and check out their premium study materials. These materials are designed to cut your study time in half, and they also offer an exam pass guarantee. Take care and good luck studying.